Good evening and welcome to this Retina UK webinar. Retina UK are hosting a series of webinars on different topics, and we will be delivering at least one every month. I'm really pleased to introduce to you this evening Simon Taylor, Retina UK's Community and Events Fundraising Manager. He's going to be leading a panel discussion with some of our amazing supporters, including Chris, Caryn and Mark. And we'll be exploring ways that you can support Retina UK and what we can do for you as well. We'll then be joined by our Deputy CEO, Paula McGrath, later on in the session. So there will be plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of today's discussions, and we will be collecting your questions as you think of them throughout the session this evening. So if you do have a question, please type it in the Q&A section on your screens. If you're on a tablet device, that may be under reactions. All of these questions will be asked by the team on your behalf. So please do leave your questions throughout the presentation and we will have them answered at the end of the session for you. So we will endeavour to answer as many questions as we possibly can. However, any questions we're not able to get to today will be followed up over the next coming weeks. So thank you once again for joining us. And without further ado, I am delighted to introduce to you Simon Taylor.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Matt. So, yeah, well, thank you for joining us this evening. Fundraising is a really big part of Retina UK, and it's really only thanks to the generosity of our community that we're able to help people and support people who are affected by inherited sight loss. And it's also only through that generosity that we're able to accelerate that search for treatments for the future. Now, we know that fundraising can be really fun, but we also know that it can be a bit scary at first. It can be a little bit daunting, and there's a range of emotions that go with that. And we know from the conversations that we have with our community that fundraising can often bring lots of extra positive benefits to people who are taking part, and that, you know, can also help with their well-being. Now, I'm really lucky at Retina UK. Through my role, I get to talk to lots of people about their fundraising, their experience of fundraising. And not only do I get to help them with that, I get to hear about all of the kind of amazing benefits that it's brought to them in their lives as well. So this webinar is, a brilliant opportunity to hear about some of those things. We've got some wonderful people with us this evening, as Matt mentioned. We're joined by Chris, Caryn and Mark, and they're going to share some of their experiences of fundraising as part of Team Retina UK. So I'd like to start that discussion now. So to Mark, to Caryn and Chris, if you'd like to join in and turn your cameras on, that'd be fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks, guys. So we're going to start off really nice and easy. I thought it might be a good idea if you could each just introduce yourselves and just give a sense of some of the events that you've been involved in, or some of the fundraising that you've been involved in. I thought possibly Mark, if we start with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon and Matthew, for welcoming us to tonight's webinar. It's my pleasure to be here. So my name is Mark Baxter. I am the Information Support Coordinator for I've been with the organisation about 15 months now. I joined in September 2021. But my journey didn't start there. It started with a fundraising challenge, which happened to be the London Marathon back in 2005. And then from then onwards, I excelled to a variety of different tracks, both internationally and nationally, including Iceland, the Sahara, Mont Blanc, and also the Three Peaks Range. I've also done a variety of fun runs, 10Ks, and I've also done 3 skydives, and the most recent one being from 15,000 feet. So
that's amazing, Mark.
Really do enjoy it.
Yeah, it's incredible the range of things you've been involved in over the years, and I'm sure we're going to touch on a lot of those this evening. Chris, how about you?
Thanks, Simon, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here as well. And yeah, for me, obviously, as you know, I came aboard with Retina UK just last year in the run up to obviously the London Marathon back in October. So that was my first, I guess, big event with Retina UK. And I've said many times before, it's been one hell of an experience, not just the London Marathon itself, but just having like Retina UK in my corner, having their backing, their support, and their belief ultimately as well, which has been phenomenal. And then, you know, after off the back of that, there's been opportunities to continue that with obviously various different events, including this one tonight as well. And I'm sure there'll be many sort of to look at in the near future at the same time. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. And Caryn.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me as well. Yeah, my name is Caryn Young. I am registered blind, and I think we've really been involved with Retina UK probably since about 2009. My husband has done, I think he's done four marathons to fundraise for Retina UK so far. So his first one was 2009. He did I think it was Dublin, then Belfast, then London, and then New York. So I was feeling a wee bit kind of left out, a bit jealous. So whenever I saw the virtual London Marathon come up as an option in 2021, I just jumped at it because it just ticked all the boxes for me. I didn't have to go all, you know, organize accommodation, organize flights, you know, deal with crowds of people. You know, it was just, I could do it all in my own time. So it was great. So I did the virtual London Marathon then in 2021. So we've kind of been doing it, as I say, since fundraising since 2009. Just through the marathons, we've run table quiz, kind of a wee live music gig, a pub barbecue, just different wee bits and pieces along the way to fundraise for those events. So that's it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Caryn. I think you kind of touched on or started to there as well. We, you know, these kind of a lot of these events are kind of about getting active and kind of focusing the mind, I guess, on something new. And I was sort of going to ask about whether there was anything that you know made you want to get involved with them. And obviously, as you were just saying there, sort of keeping up with your husband.
Yeah, competitive.
But was there anything else that kind of inspired you, you know, recently, say with the virtual, to think actually that's, you know, something that I want to do?
Yeah, well, I can't remember. I think it came up on Facebook or something around maybe January, February time of that year, and I was just in the process of retiring, taking ill health retirement from work. So it kind of was just the perfect time for me because I needed something, you know, something to focus on, something to keep me busy, because it was going to be otherwise just a big shock, you know, working one day and then stop. So it was brilliant having something to focus on and something to timetable my week around as well. So yeah, it really helped from that perspective. It's just perfect timing.
Definitely. And Chris, how about you? Sort of when you were first thinking about that marathon, was there something that really inspired you to kind of almost bite the bullet and go for it? Or
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of led into the fact that, you know, you've got to embrace challenge. I think somebody that's like myself, who's you know, like Caryn, registered, sort of blind, you know, it can be quite natural to kind of feel, you know, a lot of self-doubt, lack of confidence at times. But, you know, I always kind of say to like a lot of my clients that we grow in discomfort, we grow sort of through challenge. And I always kind of said to myself, off the back of doing it, that I was always going to look forward to meeting the person that I would become off the back of doing that marathon. So I just kind of like thought about that. But obviously, you know, it was scary. There was a lot of doubt, a lot of nerves, which I think's natural and it's going to happen. But again, if you think about what that's going to, you know, what you're going to see on the other side of that doing it, I think the reward's always going to be there. So, but yeah, no, I think it's just got to lean into it. You know, that's always said, lean into challenge. And like, I think it's a huge thing, but yeah.
Definitely. And Mark, how about you, thinking back to those ones right at the beginning you were taking on, you know, all those years ago? Was there kind of anything that really kind of drove you to want to do that?
Yeah, well, especially the London Marathon. As I applied for London Marathon through their ballot, I started applying for the London Marathon back in 2003. And unfortunately, the first 2 years I was unsuccessful, but then the 2005, which happened to be their 25th anniversary, I was accepted. So, and living with inherited sight like myself, I've had RP, myasthenic pigmentosus. I was a child. I've always believed in keeping fit and active and running, and a family member actually did the London Marathon a couple of years before that, and she said it's an amazing experience, and the atmosphere of half of London coming out to cheer you on and to feed you sweets and that drive and motivation, especially when you're sort of 20 odd miles in and your legs are like jelly and they just pick you up, and it was such an amazing experience, especially to cross the finish line, to get to your medal, and the fact that I've been striving for 3 years to take part in an amazing challenge. And then as an added bonus to raise money for Retina UK, or RP Fight Blindness as they were back then. It was an amazing experience, and it just kind of led me on to doing more fundraising challenges for other charities, and then having the opportunity to be a part of the first overseas expedition across the Sahara Desert was so rewarding. And one thing is, having more vision back then, it gave me the opportunity to now live back memories, whereas I don't have the vision to see it as well as I did back then. So, I can still remember Saharan landscapes, sunrise going down over the sand dunes, the different colours of the skies that sun was setting. And they will be with me forever now, as well as the other treks. So, it was tough, lots of training involved, but, the benefits, way outweighed, what I get there.
Yeah, definitely. And I know the with those treks, that's something, Marty, I think there's come up in conversation with us many times. You've talked about that, and it just sounds like such an amazing thing to be part of. I mean, I've got to ask, where did the skydiving come in for you? Was that something you had always wanted to do, or did that just come up at some point and you thought, well, I'll go for it?
Yeah, I was always a bit of a daredevil. The fear really never grasped me, even when I was a child. There was nothing that I wouldn't try to do, and I think it was the fact that I couldn't drive. I think that was a turning point. The fact that I would never be able to get behind the wheel, and many people that are listening to and watching today may relate to, if you are diagnosed with inherited sight loss early on, that you make the decision that I'm not going to be able to drive. So how else can I get my speed kicks? And I did my first skydive when I was just turned 18. I was hooked. After that, I did another one. It took me 10 years to do the next one, and I roped in my brother, who was also living with RP, a friend and a colleague. So we did that. I roped a few people in to do that, and we did that as a part of a world record attempt, which we actually smashed that year. It was brilliant. And then every time the opportunity arose to do another one, I just went for it. And then I've always wanted to go higher. So when I found that there was a place up in Lancashire that could jump from 10,000 feet, again, it took me a while to plan it, design my flight suit, my Retina UK flight suit, and because of COVID, and then I thought, what, let's go for it. And again, every single skydive that I've done, it's just been a different experience, because it's either been at a different temperature or a different height. And I've got I can turn around and say that, I've actually traveled 138 miles an hour and not actually been in a vehicle. So it's something that you can actually say to people, and hopefully get them to join in.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it? And I mean, going back to some things we were saying earlier, so Caryn, you touched on right at the beginning about the virtual London Marathon being something you felt was kind of quite a good idea for you in terms of being able to do that close to home and kind of not having to think about kind of, I guess, traveling to London and big crowds and all of the other runners and that sort of thing. Did you find that kind of the virtual was helpful in that way, that perhaps there were less barriers to getting involved, I guess?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, with Mark having done the other marathons, I'd been, and watched him in the Belfast, the Dublin and the London. So, I knew exactly what, it was like, in the process of it. And I just knew it wouldn't be for me actually being involved in it. It was okay spectating, but whenever the virtual one came up, it literally was just perfect, because, I knew the way it was organized, you had the whole day to do it.
Yeah.
You could choose your own route. There was it seemed to be less kind of strict in terms of the rules that might otherwise kind of rule me out. Might go, oh no, well, I wouldn't be able to finish it in that time, so there's no point in trying, sort of thing. So so it worked for us, and we were able to plan a route. Well, as it happened, the route we had planned, we changed at the last minute. I went from one huge 26-mile circuit, and we changed it, and we did a 3-mile circuit past our house. Just did it 8 times or 9 times, whatever it took to get to it, and that was perfect, because it meant that our friends, family could kind of stand and watch us at multiple times. We went past our house, so you had the option of nipping into the loo, or if it was going to be raining, you could change your clothes, you could get a drink without having to carry it the whole way. And I mean, we'd set off with our planning based on the speed I was walking at, because I walked it, I didn't run it. And the plan was we were going to do it in 9 hours, but through the 12 weeks in the training schedule and building it up, to a pace, we were able to get in under 7 hours. So it was just, fantastic. And I don't think I would have trusted myself to get in under that time if I'd been going for the in-person marathon. Plus, you'd have to get around everybody else and all the debris on the ground. So it just took a lot of the anxiety and the stress out of it for me, just to do the virtual. And you still felt like you were part of, the event, because you had the app, and every so many miles it would give you a big cheer, and it would, there was a quiz that you got the questions answered, a few miles later or whatever. So it really did make you feel like you were part of a bigger group and a bigger event. So it was really, really good.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, and we certainly try to have that, I guess, that range of things that people can get involved with, so that there is hopefully something for everyone. I mean, Mark, how did you kind of have, I guess, when you were approaching, say, in particular with your skydives, did you find that there were kind of any barriers to you getting involved with that sort of thing, or kind of any worries that you had in the lead up to those?
No, not really. I think it's just having the confidence in yourself. If there's a challenge or something that you want to pursue to fundraise, is to set yourself the goal. I've always enjoyed fundraising. I love the challenge of taking part in the particular challenge itself, but also the fundraising behind it. And I've actually raised from little as to £200-300 for a challenge, all the way up to a few thousand. And having the support of local organisations behind you, it just gives you that little bit more confidence. Social media as well, and the fact that I like to live stream a lot of stuff, because it just gets people behind you, especially when you're doing it in the first person context, so people can actually see your experiencing yourself, and it kind of gives them an idea of what you're facing, and it kind of then thinks, oh, he's actually doing this, and I've got in a first person experience of it, and it means that people are more likely to support you with your fundraising, and so no, I really do look forward to that part of it. And if anyone is a little bit daunted about the fundraising aspect of it, if you've got a plan set in place and you've got of colleagues, family and friends, you should be able to succeed, and not mention the amazing support that Retina UK provides in helping you get there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess one of the other big things as well, isn't it, that there's obviously that commitment around the fundraising, the time that might be, but also the training side is obviously a big thing for lots of events. Chris, how did you find fitting in the training around, you know, kind of work and family life and all of those things?
Yeah, it's certainly a challenge, and you know, I think there's always going to be a point where when you do embark on some form of challenge like this, there are going to be some form of sacrifices that you are going to have to make. You know, time being one, but you know, we found, you know, as a dad and having obviously the girls and stuff like that, we found ways of sort of combining sort of family time and, you know, training together. So we often used to go to a local sort of trail, and I used to get the girls on their bikes. I used to run. They used to have the bottles and the jelly babies on board with them, and then we sort of combine it, you know, a run sort of family bike ride together. So we found ways of just, you know, doing it that way. But you know, on the other side of that, yeah, there was early mornings, late nights, but with doing it last year, obviously I had the ability to do, because we had longer days, obviously it was a little bit easier. So we could do the early morning runs at sort of 6 a.m. or go out a bit later at night when it was still light. Obviously this year's a little bit different, you know, in terms of the shorter days when it goes back to April. But you know, there are always ways of doing things. You know, it's just sort of trying to have a battle plan in place, I guess. From a fundraising aspect, though, you know, one thing that worked incredibly well for me was just the sort of consistent documentation in my journey, not just showcasing, you know, what went well in terms of the runs, but actually showcasing perhaps the things that didn't go so well, you know, the training sessions that felt not good, the fact that my legs were just completely fatigued and I just felt slow that day, you know. So being, you know, documenting the highs and the lows, the ebbs and the flows, you know, just being really authentic with your sort of social media, you know, sort of documentation of your journey. As you know, Simon, you know, I took quite a big step in writing quite an emotive post, and it was a big step personally because that's the first time that I had ever written quite openly, honestly and transparently about my condition on social media. But that created, obviously on a personal level, it's phenomenal. It was a big step for myself, but it also created a huge amount of sort of traction in regards to the fundraising, because I think people buy into that kind of emotion, and then they're more likely to kind of support you as a byproduct of that as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was incredibly powerful. So like both for me and obviously, you know, for the fundraising side of things as well. You know, off the back of that, I think we raised just £2,000 off one post, and it was absolutely crazy, you know. So yeah, but and that's a big step. But I'm glad I took it, because what it's meant for me now is that it's given me a lot of confidence in myself, knowing that my sort of, you know, community, if you like, have a level of awareness around kind of my eye condition, how it affects me. You know, a lot of people knew I had eye condition, but they didn't really understand the eye condition. But through this process of doing the fundraising, I was able to document more about this, and I feel better in the fact that they know a bit more about it. So therefore, they're able to help and support me in a way that would be better for me as well. So yeah, it's kind of, definitely works two ways.
Yeah, definitely. And then I know, Chris, you then went on to go to another event later in the year and actually tell your story to what was a pretty big audience on the night, wasn't it? I mean, did that feel like, you know, looking back, was that something you ever thought you would end up doing after, you know, getting involved in that sort of thing? Or
I wouldn't have done that next event if it wasn't for what obviously we've done in terms of the fundraising and the work I've done with Retina UK. It gave me, doing the work for Retina UK and doing the marathon, etc., that gave me the confidence to then go on and do that. Obviously, it provided opportunity in itself anyway, but like, I wouldn't have the confidence to stand on stage and talk about my own journey and my own story if I hadn't to sort of gone through that process of documenting on social media like the way I did.
Yeah, definitely. And Caryn, I guess with you know, with doing the virtual actually in your community and having family and friends kind of watching you do that event, I guess did that sort of help as well to kind of I guess raise a bit of awareness about, you know, the charity and about inherited sight loss at the same time, do you think?
Yeah, definitely it did. I mean, what we did, you know, was again something similar with the social media. So sort of from about 12, 11 weeks to go, every Sunday we'd post an update with photos of us on our training walk and what the distance was, and just maybe a screenshot of kind of the Fitbit data with the distance and the elevation, because unfortunately any direction you go from our house you have to go up a hill. So I was quite impressed. I wanted everybody to appreciate the effort that was going into it. And then we had obviously the hashtags to the charity, the links to the fundraising, and some information about the condition and the charity and the work that you do, so it was very good from that point of view. And it did initiate a lot of questions, from people, I think, who maybe would have been too shy to ask, maybe didn't want to offend you by asking you something about your condition, that kind of felt maybe a wee bit more empowered because you were being open about it on social media, that they felt they could too. And on the day we had people, because we had our numbers, our race numbers, as if we were, in London itself, people were tooting the horn and they could see us and, stopping and cheering us or handing out snacks and drinks and things. And there was some people actually joined us on the route, and that was another kind of excuse, for a chat and raising awareness. And, and it was really nice. Because I think RP is a funny condition in that, you're, as mine in particular, I have only a very small amount of central vision. So sometimes I can see people and I can chat to them and they might think, gosh, she doesn't seem to have anything wrong with her vision, So it was actually really good to, for them to explore the condition a wee bit more, and understand kind of what it is and what it isn't, and that. So that was very useful, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of touched on there about, people getting involved and, joining you with it. I guess, Mark, I imagine through, sort of the things you've been involved with over the years, you probably gone on to meet quite a lot of people through fundraising and make new friends and connections and things.
Oh, massively. There was on the first trek itself, there was quite a lot of people. We had it filmed for our information DVD, so we got a lot of publicity and awareness around that for the information DVD that was created on the back end of that, using the first Sahara Trek as a backdrop. I got to meet so many people, like-minded, inspirational people like myself. I'd never met before, apart from the immediate family. I didn't know anyone else. So it was daunting to meet new people, but then share our stories. And a lot of people had from all different walks, backgrounds, diagnosed at different times, had to give up different things. And it was just brilliant to just walk alongside someone and, like Chris said, just open up about your experiences living with sight loss, and share their experiences as well. It was great, and go on and to trek again with the same people, and again to trek with up to 3 times with the same people. We've become very, very good friends. We're now you could say colleagues as well. It's brilliant, and it's amazing that you keep in a lot of people still, again through social media, especially if there's anything else that comes up, you think, oh, so might be interested in supporting me with that, and you always get a good feedback from when you do challenge, from people with on social media, and they always help out to support you.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess doing it in a team like that as well, kind of, I guess when you reach that final day and you did that last mile, that must have felt pretty special to do that as part of a group and kind of all be there together, I guess.
Yeah, you kind of start out as 29 strangers, but then when you actually finish the challenge, you hit the top of the mountain, you kind of, and you have that photograph taken, you kind of feel like you've become a family, because you're with everybody, the same people every day, you get to learn more about that person and the struggles and the strives that they've actually gone through, and the attributes that they actually have acquired during their sight loss challenge, and when you tend to share a lot of the same ones: perseverance, grit, determination, And it's just nice, and it's so rewarding to listen to their stories as well. So yeah, you start out as strangers, finish as a team.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Chris, for you, I mean, I guess when you turn that final corner, you were there on the Mall, and the Palace was there, and kind of, what was that like when all of that training you realized it paid off, and the finish line was kind of just a few steps away? How did that feel?
I guess a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, but highly rewarding at the same time. Yeah, I was obviously elated, with everything comes to fruition, doesn't it? All them weeks and days and miles that you've done over the kind of past sort of 16, 20 weeks all comes to one at the end, and yeah, it's without a shadow of doubt, it's very emotional. There's definitely a few tears shed on route, but like Mark said earlier, the crowds are insane. Like I don't think you can ever replicate that ever again. Like it's absolutely, and the atmosphere is immense. And everyone says it about London, but it is something else. You can't really describe it, but it's just a feeling. But yeah, it was truly a massive emotion. But yeah, I'm so glad that I've done it. Ultimately, I can say I've done it now. So yeah, amazing experience.
Definitely something that will stick with you for a long time, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the last, I think, I can remember I had my wife and the kids on sort of mile 24, 25. I was all getting a bit of a blur by then, but that was pretty amazing seeing them, nearer the finish as well. So yeah, incredible times. But
that's brilliant. And Caryn, I guess for you, kind of when you reached that last mile, and you knew it was the last lap of your route. I mean, what did it mean for you to kind of think, actually, yeah, I've achieved that goal that I set out to reach?
Yeah, it was really good. So such a good feeling. We were absolutely buzzing, and the last training, the last long training, I think it was 20 miles, and that was the longest we had done in training. And I kept saying, where am I going to pull another 6 miles out of? On the day, and Mark was like, trust the training, that's all. You've done everything you need to do. But and he was right, because it was fine, and we were having so much fun and chat and enjoying ourselves walking around, and we just loved it. And then when we were coming up to the end, London Marathon had sent everybody doing virtual marathon a finish line, so we had a finish line to run through, and when we realized that how close we were to the 7 hours, we did a sprint finish for the last sort of 100 yards to try and get in, so we were in a second under the 7 hours. So it was just great. In the app, then it explodes into cheers and crowd noise. It just was lovely. It was really, really good.
Yeah, and it's a lovely photo of you both as well. I've seen of you, with that finish line that you had. It must have been a special moment.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And family all standing and cheering, so it was really, really good.
I mean, and through taking that on, you obviously did lots of fundraising, and you raised a lot in support of Retina UK. That, as will have helped us in terms of the work that we can do, and really does make a huge difference. I mean, how did you feel about the fundraising side, and kind of having been so successful with it?
It was quite a surprise, and I think the fact that it was a virtual event, the minimum amount that you had to raise was lower, I think, accordingly than it probably would have been if you had been going to the event, which kind of spurred me on to do it, because I didn't feel there was ever a chance that I wasn't going to make that amount of money. But I really was surprised, every week, when we posted the countdown, 4 weeks to go, 3 weeks to go, and the links, how much money people were donating week by week by week, and then when it came to the day, there was still more coming in on the day. It was just phenomenal. The fundraising that was coming in, and it's, when you see the posts on Retina UK social media and in the newsletters, and see the work that you're doing, it's worthwhile, because the research that's going on in the background, and even just from a personal perspective, I know how much support and information that we got as a family from the charity at the start. So it's nice just to be able to kind of keep that momentum going, and and keep that work moving forward. So it's lovely to kind of know that you're a part of that process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we do our best to try and make that sense of feeling that you're part of a team and kind of all involved together in a sense. And I guess, Chris, how was it for you? I mean, obviously with the London route, there's quite a substantial target you take on at the beginning, and again, you obviously did amazingly well. What is it kind of? How do you feel about having raised so much for the charity?
No, it feels amazing. And I think, obviously we sat down at the beginning, had a call, didn't we? And we kind of broke it down, because if we focus on that, overall kind of figure, it's a little bit overwhelming. It feels like you've got a mountain to climb, but, very much like the training, broke it down to smaller chunks and made it manageable and achievable. I think, obviously, we looked at, okay, so we can do a quiz night. So I had a client of mine that, ran a pub. So she let me basically hire the pub for free. And we ran a charity night, invited everyone around, did a raffle as well, and we had somebody host the quiz as well. And it was a fantastic night for everybody that came down. Great social evening for ourselves and, so the gym community that we have. And we raised, I think, just shy of sort of £500 just on that sort of single night alone. And everyone had a fantastic time as a byproduct. So, I think, like, moving forward, momentum got faster and faster the more closer we got towards the marathon. I think, like, it was sort of 8 weeks, 6 weeks out, that's when things start to really pick up. So I think it's a case of not expecting too much right at the beginning, but just trusting the process, being consistent with that, the social media documentation, putting on sort of events throughout, and then the outcome will look after itself, essentially. But ultimately it all came down just to breaking it down, and just doing the chunking it down sort of thing really helped with us. So
yeah, those smaller bits definitely, they add up over time, don't they? Which I mean, I guess, Mark, you're probably testament to that. You've kind of as you said right at the beginning, a whole range of different bits of fundraising you've been involved in, and everything from jumping out of a plane to, collection tins on, in your local cafe sort of thing. So, what's that meant to you over the years, kind of, having raised, a lot?
Yeah, I have no idea how much over years. But, the limits are your imagination of how you want to fundraise, whether it's a collection in a local pub. I know a lot of local organisations have been very supportive over the years. Like Chris said, free function rooms, I've had unbelievable support from a local printers that has printed anything and everything that I've thrown at him, even from, like I said, my Retina UK jumpsuit to a superhero costume that were in the RP Fighting Blindness colours back then that I did for a fun run, which then ultimately lured me into being a mascot for a London Marathon Expo. So to walk around with 20,000 people in this mascot was quite daunting, more than actually people running the marathon, I would think. But I wasn't the worst costume there. There was someone in a giant shoe. So, but it's what it's what turns heads. And so it could start off with a cake bake. I've done a charity quiz night, Halloween quiz night, which was all fancy dress, and you'll be surprised on how into it gets. You talk about your sight loss, and people then start to understand, so this is what this guy's living with, and then it filters through the companies that you work for, and people start to really notice. And then that's when, when you've got schemes that help raise awareness and funds, through large organizations like that, like Charity of the Year. So if anybody knows companies that do that, and you've got a friend or family member or a colleague or something like that that is living with one of our inherited sight losses, and you can do it through that, absolutely a massive benefit. I without previous employees helping and supporting with my fundraise and collaborating with other local organisations and Fire Brigade, helping me with my fundraising as not being nominated. You can nominate Retina UK through organisations, they do support you with, you know, your fundraising targets. A little bit of publicity for them, you know, it goes a long way. So yeah, start off with cake bakes, big sales, and charity pots, you know, all the way up to, you know, treks and marathons. So it's whatever you would like to do, in the limit of your imagination.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, through that kind of range of things you've been involved with, has there been kind of any positives you've taken from that that were kind of been unexpected, that you didn't think would happen? Or
I think the amount of friends that I've met throughout the time I've been fundraising, the personal achievements that I've got from doing a lot of the challenges as well, the sites that I've been witness to, that I've seen that I may have never got the opportunity to do, you know, if the challenge didn't arise. So if it is all about opportunity. So if you see an opportunity to do a challenge and you think, you know, I really want to go forward and do that, regardless of what your site is. You know, if you can't see where you're going, then you've got the support around you to help you out. But then you can utilize the other senses that you've actually got. You know, my last skydive, for example, I couldn't see much around me from that height and the views that you're looking at. But the other senses just come alive, you know, the rush of the sounds, the feeling of the wind, all that kind of stuff. It just heightens your senses. It just makes that experience much more adrenaline packed, you know. So, you know, don't feel put off if you haven't got much sight, or you have no sight, or you're at the start of your sight life journey. You know, just take that opportunity, and you'll be surprised with what you can succeed with.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess Chris, just thinking back to you and kind of what's life been like since the marathon, kind of you know, has it led on to other things? Have you found yourself keeping more active? Kind of, yeah, what's life been like since?
Yeah, I think the one biggest takeaway from the marathon was that, you know, I now feel that I'm not going through this alone. So like Mark says, it's been an opportunity to meet loads of people that are either going through their sort of sight loss journey themselves, or have sort of friends, family members that are going through a sight loss journey as well. And, you know, that's in itself creates such a powerful support network. So that's been a huge kind of thing. In terms of like moving forward, yeah, I mean, I'm like Mark, you know, I've always got something that I want to kind of work towards. I've got a half Ironman in May, and then an ultra, the Windermere Ultra in September this year. So yeah, double the marathon distance in September. But you know, I think, you know, for me, you've got to always keep challenging yourself in life. I think even more so, you know, with somebody that has sight loss, because it's easy to kind of feel that you can't do things, and there will be people that I've had over the years say, oh, you can't do that because you've got sight loss and stuff like that. But you know what, like, it might be my own stubbornness to some extent, but you know, I think anything is possible. Yes, you might have to do things a little bit differently, but I think anything in life is possible, you know, whatever disability that you have. It's just finding a way to do it. You know, so that's probably what I'm heading this year. So yeah.
Definitely. Just a few small events then for you, Chris.
Yeah, just a few small
nice
ones.
and easy ones.
Keeps me entertained, yeah.
Oh, and Caryn, if you had sort of one takeaway that you've taken from, you know, being involved with fundraising, you know, one thing that you've kind of really will take with you, was there anything you would think of? Or
probably just you know, that confidence boosting thing, you know, in terms of that, you know, you're when you're kind of having a progressive sight loss, I sort of find my world was starting to shrink. You know, I was going less places and doing less things, and you know, and it just gave me the confidence that, you know, that I can do things, and I probably can do more than I give myself credit for. So it's nice to have, you know, to have that done, have the medal hanging on the wall, you know, to remind myself, you know, anytime I walk past it, that I have done it and I can do it. And, you know, and I haven't done any other challenges since it, but I'm absolutely not ruling it out. I think just whenever the next one comes up, that's a right fit, for me. I would love to have another go at doing something, as well. So we'll see what comes up in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that medal on the wall really does just I think just encapsulates it all, doesn't it? Having that thing to just to highlight the success that you had, and you've taken on a challenge, and whether that's a medal for a marathon or some other kind of event or a trek. It's just having that symbol of actually, yeah, you did that and you did it really, really well.
Yeah, that's it. And it's not kind of how quickly you finished it in, or it's just that it was a challenge to you and you did it, and that's enough.
That definitely. And I think that just sounds amazing. And I just think the fact that all of you are willing to kind of do these things and kind of share your experiences tonight about what it's meant to you and the things that you've taken from it is just amazing. It's been I've really enjoyed this conversation and then kind of hearing all of your kind of thoughts around it all. And just to say, yeah, thank you so much for being part of Team Retina UK, for all of the fundraising, but also for sharing your story this evening. I believe we're going to move to some questions in a moment. I'm hoping by magic, one of my colleagues is going to appear shortly and we'll have some questions coming through.
That'll be me then. Hopefully I've appeared. Yeah, thank you. It's been great listening to you, and just to see the smiles on your faces and the energy that you create when you talk about the fundraising that you've done is quite infectious, actually. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And not to forget that obviously every penny that you've raised has enabled us to make a difference for others with sight loss. We simply couldn't do it without people like you doing the amazing things that you do. So a personal thank you, as well as on behalf of the organisation. I have got a few questions, if that's okay. I've got a question here from someone who says that they would love to do something, but they haven't been involved in fundraising before, and they're keen to know what support they would get from Retina UK. Simon, maybe you could give us a bit of an outline, and then perhaps others would like to chip in.
Yeah, definitely. So the key thing I'd say with the support is it's really dedicated support. So for anyone joining Team Retina UK, whatever the event ended up being, whether that was a challenge event or something in your community, you would have a named contact in our team that would be your kind of first port of call for anything that you need. And then depending on the type of activity, there's a whole host of range of support that we have available. So that might be, a running vest to wear at an event, or a cycling jersey if it was a cycle. It might be our suite of fundraising materials to help you with your fundraising. So things like pin badges to sell, or a collection tin to put out somewhere. And then we've also got things like if you were doing a sponsored run, we have a running club on Strava. So as you're doing your training, you can be doing it alongside other runners and kind of sharing tips and advice about the event. And then, yeah, with some of the other events as well, if, for example, it was the London Marathon, we have a reception after the race, so you get that as well. But yeah, the main thing is you would have someone in the team, or possibly myself or one of my colleagues, who would be there to help you, every step of the way.
Thank you. Another question that leads on quite nicely from that is, how do you find asking people for sponsorship? I feel really uncomfortable asking for money. I don't know whether any of our panelists would like to come in on that one.
Yeah, I'll make a start on it. I think, firstly, putting on an event where you're providing some form of entertainment, whether it be a quiz night or whether it be a raffle, I think that's a good place to start, as they also are receiving something for that sort of donation. So people will kind of buy into entertainment or whatever it might be. So I think that's a really good place to start.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you've got some sort of function that you can put on, quiz nights really do work quite well, or a black tie dinner, comedy night. One particular evening that could go down quite well as well is Dine in the Dark as well. It will give an understanding of what it would be like sort of living with inherited sight loss. You know, I know there's a restaurant in London that does that all the time. So, you know, again, the limits are your imagination of how you can, you know, provide fundraising ideas, you know, in order to return, you know, a nice donation from. So, ideas out there.
I think that's really
Yeah, I would just agree with that as well. Sorry, just about, you know, the quizzes and the raffles and the events, really good place to start. Coffee mornings, you know, anything that brings people together, and, you know, also gives you an excuse to put some leaflets on a table or simulation glasses, and, you know, gets a few questions going as well at the same time. You know, and obviously just giving links on your social media, you know, you're not directly having to go up and check a tin in somebody's face. You know, they can see it, they can react to it if they want to, you know, and when they want to. So it's quite good as well.
That leads perfectly into another question, which is around social media. So I think you've all spoken about your use of social media to support with fundraising. What if somebody isn't very experienced with social media? Not everybody is. How else might they tackle that sort of element of the marketing, I guess, or can we give support with that, Simon?
Yeah, we definitely can. As I say, yeah, it's something we touch on, but yeah, there is definitely a world outside of that. So that might be something like we have like a template press release. So it might be that you're doing an event in your community, and you want to share that with your, you know, people in the local area. So something like that you might give to your local newspaper, for example. We've also got, you know, we touch on things like online fundraising pages, but we still also have the paper sponsorship forms as well. So that's something we can provide. So yeah, there's lots of ways and means to kind of share those things. We have things like template posters. It could be printed out and put up in, say, a place of work, for example. So yeah, it doesn't have to be on social media at all.
Thank you. And I'm hoping we've got time for one last question. I'll paraphrase this, but it's a question from somebody who says that they're not really up for marathons and physical challenges. Can they still support the organisation? Is there something else they could do? Definitely.
And actually, I suppose also anyone who was doing a challenge, often the fundraising that you're doing isn't necessarily just sponsorship. So those non-challenge elements come into play as well. What we would always say is usually it starts with what your interests are. So maybe you're a member of you've got a hobby, or you're in a group, that sort of thing. So starting with what you know or what you like, and we can help you to create ideas from that. Or we do also have some ideas kind of ready to go. So for example, we have Retina UK's Great Bake. So if you enjoy a bit of baking, or if you just enjoy the eating of the cake, we have an event you can take part in. We send you a pack. It's got a collection box in there. It's got stickers for labels for your cakes and all sorts of bits and bobs. So yeah, there's various ways you can get involved. Mark, for example, has done things like he's had some of our collection tins that he's put out in local cafes and businesses that he knows. So yeah, it's really about kind of what you're interested in and who you know, and yeah, just get in touch with the team and we can help you explore those ideas and find something that works for you and what you're interested in.
Okay, so it sounds like that doesn't need to be a barrier to fundraising. Maybe get in touch with you, Simon, have a chat and see what suits best.
Definitely, and I'd hope that the guys would agree, but I think fundraising should be fun, and it should hopefully involve things that you enjoy doing, and it means you can spend time with whether it's family or friends or people in kind of your hobby or workplace. And yeah, if we can help you to explore that and to raise a little bit of money in a way that you can enjoy, then that's all the better, I think.
Great, thank you. I think we've got one more question, but I think Matt's going to take that one from the floor.
We do have Chris, who's one of our attendees, has got his hand up. So Chris, if you still want to ask your question, I've just enabled you to talk. You just need to unmute your microphone in order to do that. Just hope that's not a barrier for you. If not, we can take the question from you afterwards. Maybe a tech thing there. Was there one final question? Any other questions from you, Paula?
I think there's something that I'd like to ask, if I may, of each of the panelists, and that is there one thing that you would have done differently if you just reflect now on your experience? Literally just a few words. Is there one thing you would have done differently? Mark, can I come to you first?
I like to do more. That sounds bizarre, but I always strive to be a better version of myself, you know, before the last challenge. And I see some amazing inspirational things that other people are doing, and it makes me think to myself, I haven't done enough. So I don't know whether that's my own personal sense of I want to achieve more, but I'm always looking for the next challenge. I'm actually running out of them, you know, there's always something out there that I haven't done yet that I would like to do. There are lots of around the world that I haven't done yet, and have I got to the point where I won't appreciate them as much, can't see what they have to offer, especially when you're standing at the top of Kilimanjaro, for example. You know, will I be able to still appreciate the sunrise, you know, or, you know, the landscape of, you know, other treks and surroundings, but it still won't stop me from still taking part of them. I just have to have someone describe those views and experiences for me rather than seeing them for myself. So,
thanks, Mark. Caryn, one thing that you would have done differently?
To be honest, I don't honestly think, I would have done anything any differently. You know, I think we were so well prepared. You know, I mean, Simon was emailing and phoning me kind of the minute I had signed up, you know, so it was great. I had that support sort of from the word go, you know, and you knew exactly what to do, and any questions you had, you knew where to go. So it wasn't like you got to the marathon day and went, oh my goodness, I should have done XYZ, because you were so well informed from the outset that, you know, everything kind of fell into place as it went along. So no, I loved every minute of it, and I honestly don't think there's anything I would have done any differently. I'm so glad we changed the route at the last minute. That just made it, you know, so much more fun. You know, it would have been more of an effort, I think, to have done it alone over the 26 miles with nobody cheering you on until the very end. So yeah, I'm so glad we did that at the very last. So yeah.
And Chris, final word to you then.
Yeah, thank you. No, I honestly wouldn't have done anything sort of different at all. I think the support from you guys, Simon, obviously in particular, you know, it was flawless. And yeah, obviously couldn't have done it without you guys at all. It was an incredible experience. And yeah, it's just like every bit of gap was kind of looked after. You know what I mean? There was no kind of stone left unturned at all when it came to fundraising, when it came to logistics, when it came to getting out to London, to going to the reception. Obviously, we had a bit of an issue on the day in regards to trying to find a reception and getting over the road to get to you guys. But like, you managed to get us over that, and we had a great time at the reception as well. So no, absolutely flawless, mate. Thank you very much.
That's really good to hear. Thank you, everybody. I think I will hand back to Matt, just to say a few words before we finish.
Thank you, everyone. That was phenomenal. That was absolutely brilliant. So inspirational just listening to all the things that you've done and the way that you supported the charity. So a huge thank you to all of you, and to all of you who have come to join us tonight. A massive thank you. So as mentioned at the beginning of the evening, Retina UK will be delivering at least one webinar every month, the next of which will be on Thursday, the 23rd of February, which will be our first Ask the Expert session of the year. So we'll be joined by consultant ophthalmic surgeon Simon Keeley. So details on how you can join that session and how you're able to ask your questions of our expert can be found on our website, and also on the email that I'll be speaking about very, very shortly. So as you've heard tonight, Retina UK is a registered charity. We receive no government funding, and we rely on all of our wonderful supporters, such as those who you've heard from tonight, to help raise the funds needed to provide our vital services and invest in groundbreaking medical research. There are many, many ways that you can support the work of the charity. Perhaps you might be interested in copying Mark by jumping out of an aeroplane, Chris by running a marathon, or Caryn by simply doing one locally. Or you might fancy something a little bit more sedate, like holding a bake sale, a quiz night. There are hundreds of ways that you can support us, and you can find out more about that on our website, which is www.retinauk.org.uk/fundraising, and speak to Simon and one of his team who can help you in many, many, many ways. So we will be sending out an email tomorrow, which will have details on where you can rewatch or listen to this evening's presentations, and details on how you can book onto our other events, including our Ask the Expert webinar next month. We'll also be seeking your feedback on today's session, and we value all feedback. It just helps us to know that we're doing things the right way, and if we're not doing it quite the right way, what it is that we need to do. So all of your feedback is absolutely vital to us and will help develop our future webinars and our other services. So once again, thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to all of you who've joined us this evening, and I wish you a very good evening. Thank you very much.